Thank you for joining us on this wonderful Friday going into Memorial Day weekend. I just want to
Yeah.
take a couple seconds and go through kind of the training questions and things that we talked about before. Just getting a feel on what you did and what you enjoyed from the NexusBlue Program Management Office training that Maria did. It was actually the third series that you attended. But I just want to take a moment and ask a few questions. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Myrtice Carter. I've been building a career in IT and cyber industry for the past 19 years. I'm very result driven. Consider myself a cybersecurity expert, and I have experience in IT security, risk management, and compliance management. And I've worked on several cybersecurity programs, leading cross-functional teams, and sticking to regulatory compliance in complex DoD systems and in the industry environment. So I'm also a daughter. I am auntie, and I am a leader in the community. So yay! I'm multifaceted. I like learning, so when I saw the opportunity to take this class, it was definitely one that I wanted to jump on and complete.
Okay, yeah, perfect. I always mess up your name, so
You're
I
good.
apologize for that. It's a very unique name. It's a pretty name when you say it, not as much when I do.
Well, you're
Um,
very close compared to some of the other names that I've been called, so I can handle your name. But yeah, it's Martise.
yeah, it's like I said, it's a beautiful name. I appreciate it. I'll try to get it right
Well,
going
thank you.
forward. Um, yeah, so I've been impressed because we've talked several times, and I've been
Yeah.
impressed with your background and what you've done in the government service sector. I'm really interested in seeing what you do in the future and where you're looking. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of what you've seen because you've had a very interesting background on kind of like where you saw slow progress, what you saw some of the challenges to be in that program management piece, kind of like bottlenecks.
Okay, so that's a loaded question because there are several things that operate a little slow on government sector side and create bottlenecks. But I would say the things that I found most impactful were agreements with multiple stakeholders. We had to get sign off on not just the PMO office, but you had the different forms of leadership and the cross-functional teams, especially when you're building contracts. That was a bottleneck in getting people to respond in a timely manner. Because yes, you have an ultimate deadline, but nobody wants to work until the last minute. Um, Various government regulations, you would have a memo to come out from just to say big efforts, but then you have the smaller regulations, or in my frame of work, I was working with RML for risk management framework. So some of those regulations, you had to try to fit them into that framework or readjust your project according to whatever new regulations that came out. Not only that, you had budget approvals. So working in the IT and cyber industry, nobody fully understands security. They understand it after you have an incident. And then, oh, you can get all the money that you want, but when you're building these applications, software applications, and when you're trying to secure these operating systems, especially the legacy ones, um, ran into several budget issues where they didn't want to give the money up front to fix the issues, but even though we had clearly broke down all the requirements necessary and all the benefits for doing the work up front, um, the money still trickled in slowly. But eventually, on certain projects, we got the money that was needed. Um, so that's been the main ones. And then the last one that I would say is the contract language. It often lacks clearly defined IT and cyber requirements, or would just say security requirements. Um, you'll have one portion that's built out correctly, and then you get to the cyber piece, and they were like, "Oh, this is the same thing." And no, cyber and IT are two separate things. Security, there's physical security, then there's system security. So yeah, like they just all used to want to mesh them all together, and they're not the same. So um, those are the most issues that I see. So there was agreements among multiple stakeholders, government regulations, budget approvals, and then the contract language was the ones that I would say.
Okay, yeah, a lot going on there. You definitely, like I said, have an interesting background with the cybersecurity structure of the platforms. I think you're right. A lot of it's hit and miss.
Yeah,
Just trying to get what is the right direction and how do you get everybody engaged in the process and do they even understand why it's important at the time, right? I think that's part
exactly.
of it. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So what made you want to attend the PMO class with NexusBlue?
Going back to what I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm a continuous learner. So I wanted to enhance my knowledge, gain a deeper understanding of the PMO principles, the methodologies, and the best practice because working with multiple cross-functional teams and not only that, being a liaison between government side and their contractors, vendors, I noticed that some of them were using agile style methodologies, and I wanted to have a better understanding of okay, if I know how my meetings flow, I know government structure. I needed to learn more about how they structure their project management so we could have more efficient meetings. um, Try to understand things from their perspective and try to definitely meet more deadlines versus kept getting setbacks. So that and then like I said, increase efficiency of the meetings and then just have more strategic alignment amongst projects. So if it was going to be if Agile was going to was working for them, then maybe it's something that I could have brought to the table to the PMO or to my cyber team, like, hey, let's try to implement some of the things that the vendors keep doing that may make things more flow easier and organize the goals and therefore meet more deadlines and basically make business strategies better. So
Yeah,
that was the
perfect.
reason why I jumped in.
Okay. So what was the most valuable thing you learned in that class?
I think the breakdowns of the roles, what the expectations for each role should be. For instance, program manager, um, what the expectation should be. Um, I know my operations with program managers was different. It was based on more personality style instead of the actual methodology they were using. So that was my biggest takeaway: how to operate within that project management team. I learned about KPIs, how important they are, how important it is to have the right stakeholders in the room, because a lot of times cyber was not included. But I see where it should have been, where it would have probably made projects move a little faster, or just getting the program manager to understand a little bit more on our side. So breaking down the rules and then having the interactions to interact like the actual person was a good tool.
Yeah, perfect. See, I think trying to figure out the dynamics of the group and how does that interact and how do you engage with the stakeholders and the project management workflow are key, right, to the
Yes.
success of the program. So it sounds
Yes.
like that's the piece that really clicked with you at the moment is just that engagement activity in the process. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway or that you learned in that process? What would you apply?
Um, say that the real world applications, like having giving structure in a way that applies to situations that are actually going on in organizations, was a major thing. And not only that, like you can, I'm learning that we can talk as high level as possible, or we can talk as detailed as possible. But if you can find that middle piece where everyone is on the same page, it makes projects better, it makes working life better. um, and just having that extra knowledge would be my main thing. And then I would say that it definitely encouraged me to enhance my project management skills, like I said. So I actually got the courage to go take the Scrum Master certification where I took a training and I actually passed. So I was
Good.
very proud of myself. And so now I have the extra piece to walk in the room and say, hey, I understand you. And this is why I understand you. Because I've taken the time to get that perspective and to learn
Yeah.
the different roles, and see how we can all make life better.
Now, I can't tell you how excited that Maria and I were when you told her that you took the class and then you took the Scrum certification and that you
Yeah.
passed, and that was exciting. That's a great opportunity there, and it's going to be good for you too and what you're doing
Yes.
and your next steps in the journey. So, yeah, she was really excited, and then I know you guys are doing some mentoring, so
Yes.
I think it's fun to see that in the interactions. So happy that you're learning a lot in that project management activity. I think it's going to be exciting where you fall through next. So I think, what's influencing you and your direction is exciting for what we're seeing and our opportunities as well. Um, I'm going to skip ahead because I'm asked a lot of questions, but you answered a lot of things too here. So I
Good.
don't want to ask you things that you've already answered. Um, but would you recommend this to another colleague? And if so, why?
I would highly recommend the training to colleague or anyone else in the industry. And I would say that because it enhances the project management skills and allows you to contribute to the PMO success. Once you can understand the business side
Mhm.
of things, you will understand also how your role plays in achieving that success goal. And it's all about perspective and having the skills to manage the project.
Yeah.
And if you're used to just doing things one way, you'll easily fall into some of those bottlenecks that I talked about. But if you have a better understanding, and if you understand the business mission or the business that says, like, for instance, PMO goals, then you will understand what your role is more in that project and how you achieve that mission. So I definitely would recommend it, especially to program managers. Um, so they would see, so they would be able to implement projects a little bit faster than what they do now, and keep in communication with everyone on the team, not just one side of the team. They'll be able to talk to all the teams, all the cross-functional team.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that wasn't provided ahead of time because I think
Okay.
it's good. You came into the project management class. You actually came to the third series in the
Yeah.
class. She had a couple other series in this particular one, series one and two. But did you feel like when you came into session three that you were able to pick up and really get involved in the class relatively easy, and it wasn't a requirement for you to be there for the first two? What are your thoughts there?
I definitely felt comfortable coming in. Well, I was a little nervous at first because it was part three, but once I got in and she did the recap and saw how easily things were flowing, I felt comfortable with being a part of section three. Like I said, she did a great recap. The handouts were great. The breakdown of everything, the agenda and how we were going to move through the class was great. So they gave me a heads up of what to expect. Um, Not only that, the caliber of people that were in the room, they made it comfortable as well because everyone understood why we were there and everybody had a willingness to learn. And yeah, so that made it very easy to flow with the class.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I'm glad to hear it. So she's got the next class coming up here. It's actually on June 11th. It's going to be at I think it's 1:30. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 1:30 on June 11th. And it's going to be risk management focused. It's the fourth series.
Yeah,
Hopefully you're going to be able to attend that because that's
I
going to be
will.
a fun class. Um, but yeah, that's the next one. So what would you tell somebody who's thinking about that next class? Um, who's probably on the border and doesn't know if they want to sign up yet, because they see that it's the fourth session. And what's your thoughts?
I would say don't worry about the number. Focus on the topic at hand. If you deal with risk management or if the topic interests you, I would definitely say make the investment in your professional development, and therefore you can lead the projects and have better outcomes, better perspective, better organization. You'll be able to bring more valuable content to the table that you're sitting, well, the tables that you're sitting at, or the meetings that you have to lead. So ignore the number and focus on the content that you will be getting, receiving from attending the class.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, because I think it's going to be an exciting class. I got the preview of what the agenda
Yeah.
looks like, and it's definitely an area that a lot of organizations are focused with, which is risk litigation
Yes.
and a risk avoidance. And the class is going to talk a little bit about differentiation between risk and what a risk is and versus an issue.
Yes.
And a lot of organizations get that confused. So it's going to be a good opportunity. And right now we're in a risk environment, right? With everything
Yes.
going on in the world. And you know that just being in the government space for as long as you have, there's a lot of risk opportunities there, especially as administrations come and go and go through that process. So I'm interested and excited about that class myself. I'll probably be there and attend this one. That's how
Okay.
important I think the risk is, and the risk management activities. And nobody knows that better than Maria in managing those. She spent a lot of time in her background
Yes.
managing that. So what surprised you the most about the session that you attended?
Um, I would say the level of interactiveness. It was made very interactive, whereas I thought it was just going to be very content driven. Um, it was a lot of content, but it was also interactive. We collaborated a lot on the discussion. So the feedback that was given from people of different industries was great. People of different levels was great. So that was kind of like my highlight moment of being able to relate to so many real world applications. Unlike some of the training classes you go in, they're just really reading from the screens or reading documentation. It's very interactive. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I thank you for sharing that because I think you're right on, and I think that's some of the activities that I've seen myself and very important to this process. So this is probably the hardest question that I'm going to ask in the whole thing, and Maria set us up here, I think. But what is one word that would describe the experience?
well, I would say enriching. Um,
Okay.
that was the word I would give because it's an experience. It's also knowledge driven. It fosters a lot of problem solving exercises you may have in your brain or been working through. It's well, I probably would have said valuable if I didn't say Richard. But the level of content that's given is very valuable, and is useful. Whether you can use it now, it'll show up later in the future. Is yeah, it's very enriching. Like I said, it empowered me to go out and
Good.
further my education in it. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
not
I
too
think
bad of a
it's
question.
no, it's a powerful word, and you answered it right. I always have a hard time getting it down to one word. I think you've talked to me enough to know that it's hard for me to have one word, um, as it is for me to stay on one task.
Yeah, gotcha. But yes, that
Um,
was it could be tricky, but I think we landed
yeah.
it well.
No, yeah, enriching's a fantastic opportunity and word there. I think, it's important, just as having a plan and a strategy to go forward and making sure that you're aligned in the process. So I'm excited about that. Um, I do want to thank you for your time today, but I want to ask you one more question, and that is there anything else that you would like to add that we didn't ask you um, here?
Um, Actually, I wouldn't change anything about the structure. I think location was great. I think the timing of the class, like the structure, the time frame of the class is fine. I think the collaboration is involved in it. The only thing I would say is any attendees bring your questions, bring your experience. That it would definitely be the answers that you need would definitely be found in the class. So I wouldn't change anything. Just come with an openness and willingness to learn,
Yeah, no,
and
I
you'll
think
find what you need.
very, very important. It's come in, be open, be ready
Yeah,
for the discussion to go in any direction, right? Because it is
yeah,
really tailored to the people who attend. There's a pre-assessment questions that kind of go into it to
yeah,
kind of get a feel for who's attending the class and what feedback to look at. And that way we can tailor not just the topics and the presentation materials, but we also want to make sure that we're addressing the right audience, right? And the
exactly.
audience makes a difference. So you mentioned that earlier in some of the question feedback, which is, it was tailored in a direction to be very structured, but also very fluent in the conversations that spawned up right through that conversation, and then tailors and adjusts to those. So I think that's the exciting piece. But the risk management class again on June 11th at 1:30 is going to be, I think, a really good class. It'll be the fourth session. We are going to have all the sessions again. So one, two, three that were there. So if you didn't attend those, it's always good to get back into those as
Yeah.
well. But it's even more exciting when someone like yourself attends, that's interested in the topic, but also entrepreneurial in their thought process
Yes,
and knows that there's a lot going on in this space, especially in the government space, and being engaged there. So I'm really excited to work with you as you go through your journey, and then your certification that you're getting as well is important, right?
yes, sir.
So yeah, so excellent. But thank you very much for supporting us and answering the questions and being willing to tell us what your experience was in the class. So I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.